Hello and welcome back to Vindication Sports. I know it's been a while since I've posted a video, but I posted one yesterday and I'm going to post one again today because that's just the kind of energy I've got right now. The NBA's regular season has finally concluded. We're actually moving into the postseason. I talked about the last game of the regular season and, what you might consider like the first game of the postseason a little bit yesterday, just about the Grizzlies and the Trailblazers. But today I wanted to do more of a comprehensive playoff preview. And as I was going through all 8 of the first round matchups, I very quickly realized that not every matchup is created equally. So I'm not planning to spend equal time on all of the matchups. Some of them are written off at the end, but not in the West. I think every matchup in the West is absolutely worth watching every game. There's really only one series that I'm not super hyped for, but the rest of them are absolutely excellent. So I say we just kind of cut the chatter and get straight into it. I'm going to start off with the Blazers and the Lakers. That's going to be the first round series. I believe that's starting up tomorrow on Monday. It's really an interesting first matchup. It's going to be the Western Conference finalists Trailblazers. Now, I know they really didn't have too much of a shot to beat KD and all that last year, but this year KD wasn't even playing, but they didn't really have much of a chance against the Warriors, let's be honest. So it's the Western Conference Finals Trailblazers versus the absolutely reborn, didn't even make the playoffs in the first seed Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron had injuries last year, plus the team just wasn't put together properly. Had players like Michael Beasley and Lance Stevenson is trying to be like compliments to LeBron James, which is just not really a thing. We'll just say that. The Blazers absolutely limp into the playoffs. They barely make it in. CJ McCollum has got a broken back. The whole team is just looking a little bit run down. They were just trying to make the postseason. That's pretty much it. I don't really know how much threat they're feeling. But the Lakers, they do look really weak right now. They're vulnerable, especially in the first round, because I don't think LeBron really has his feet under him yet. He's a little rusty, but 2 years ago, I believe, Anthony Davis and the Pelicans swept the Blazers out of the first round as the lower seed. And that was pretty much just AD and Rondo, and I don't think anybody would argue that AD and LeBron is worse than AD and Rondo, so I actually just expect a similar thing to happen. I think that Anthony Davis is going to absolutely ruin their lives. I think there's going to be matchups where it's like Carmelo Anthony's got to guard Anthony Davis down in the post, and I don't think there's anyone on the Trailblazers that can guard AD. Potentially Hassan Whiteside is not a horrible matchup, but it's pretty bad. Same thing with Yusuf Nurkic. It's really bad. The Lakers are just going to absolutely be an overwhelming size advantage, and AD is one of the most skilled players in the league, regardless of size. So I don't really think that you're going to be able to get away with trying to, force them to shoot, because AD will just splash on you all day. The Lakers have got shooters all over the wings. We'll see if they can actually connect. It's going to come down to whether or not LeBron is playing at his expected level. I think he's going to. It's playoffs. This is no more joking around time for LeBron. Same thing with Anthony. Anthony Davis is going to be a stunner, so I expect him to play extremely well. Lakers in 5. I think that there will be one game that the Blazers will take, most certainly, maybe 2. I would just be really, really, really sad if the Lakers lost in the first round. I'm a pretty big Lakers fan, but I think I'm being pretty objective here. I'll be objective as we go forward. I just don't think that the Trailblazers really have what it takes to beat an Anthony Davis-led team. Next, we're going to move on to the Rockets and the Thunder. This is like a first-round matchup that we should be way more excited for. It's Russell Westbrook faces OKC in the first round. James Harden and CP3, grudge match. life is really funny. How all this is going to shake up. The Rockets and the Thunder playing in the first round, and the Thunder don't have Russell Westbrook on anymore. He's on the Rockets. It's crazy to see. OKC had Harden and Westbrook at one point, and now they're potentially going to lose to them in the first round. In my opinion, I think this will go to 6. Maybe it'll go to 7. I'm going to take Rockets in 6. I think that the Thunder are going to be able to win at least 2 games. We will see if it goes to 7. And if it goes to 7, I think it's anyone's game for sure. The Thunder have actually a great chance to eliminate the Rockets. They just have an excellent, really, really reliable and solid lineup. I think what you're going to get from Chris Paul, Shai Gilgeous, Danilo Gallinari, Steven Adams. Those are 4 players you absolutely know what you're going to get from. Dennis Schroeder, he's been a 6-man of the year candidate. He's part of that best 5-man lineup. They've been running a 3-guard lineup kind of all season, and it's really, really been super good, super impactful for them. So we'll see how that plays out in the postseason. I know this is kind of the same style that the Rockets like to play, except for the Thunder are just really playing a more they're just not playing as heavy analytic style. They're just playing like a traditional basketball style. When I say traditional, I mean like traditional in the modern sense, where they're still shooting a great percentage of threes, but they're really not sinking or swimming based on that. In my opinion, this matchup's going to really tell us if James Harden is soft or not. We'll have to see. James Harden and Russell Westbrook are both going to have to perform. They're both going to have to be good at their own level where they're expected to be. James Harden's going to have to be James Harden. Russell Westbrook's going to have to be Russell Westbrook. But I trust OKC to be OKC. Like when I listed out that 5-man lineup earlier, I Chris Paul, Shai Gilgeous, Danilo Gallinari, Steven Adams, all 4 of those players are absolutely reliable, if you can say anything about them. And the same really goes for Dennis Schroeder. I hesitate to mention him because he hasn't really played at all in the bubble, so we'll have to see if he's in great game shape. I trust that he will be. I trust that everything is as it seems in that matchup. So, like I said, I'm going to take Rockets in 6, but I wouldn't be shocked if this is one that I was wrong on. Next up is the Nuggets and the Jazz. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Nuggets are absolutely loaded. Nikola Jokic, Gary Harris has kind of not really been great, but I always still talk about him. Jamal Murray, they've got Michael Porter Jr. now. Their lineup is just extremely solid. Paul Millsap, he's a 2-year removed All-Star. These players are really, really good. I wouldn't say they're all great, but they're gonna be not embarrassed at any matchups in the postseason ever, pretty much. So like the Jazz are missing Bogdan Bogdanovic, or I don't know how you say it. Maybe he's Bojan Bogdanovic. Sorry about that. The power forward that was he was like a shooter, floor spacer. He was their second leading scorer, I believe, behind Donovan Mitchell, which is really sad. But the Jazz have looked really excellent. Particularly Donovan Mitchell has looked really, really, really killer. He's been hitting tons and tons of big threes. He obviously has been in the gym for a long time this summer. Throughout the season, his shot has really come into form. In the bubble, he's been particularly wet. He hits everything, feels like. And you pair that with an extremely dominant, not dominant, but extremely dominant defensively at least. Center Rudy Gobert, he's really going to clean up a lot of defensive errors. He's going to help your point differential. He's going to catch lobs. He's not the most athletic big man in the world, so he's really not running the floor and yamming on folks, but he's one of the best centers in the league, if not the best center. I don't think Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic are that far off. Either way, they could be higher or lower. I don't think there's that big of a variance in that kind of 3-man conversation we're having, and I don't even want to put Karl Anthony Towns in that conversation because he can't make the postseason without Jimmy Butler. But Michael Porter Jr. for the Nuggets has really been a standout in the bubble. We're gonna have to see if that continues, if he can really keep up that performance that he's had. I think he probably can. I think he's just starting to really get healthy and come into his stride. I'm really happy for the guy. He sat in that green room for a long time, not getting drafted. Not as long as Bol Bol or anything like that, but he sat in there for a long time. He was the last lottery pick. And, in redrafts, I don't think he goes lower than 3 or 4. So, heck yeah, Michael Porter Jr., keep it going. One of the reasons I think the Nuggets are in a strong position in this series. I just don't think the Jazz really can match up to all the firepower. Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell aren't far enough apart to where that's a huge deficit in the side of the Nuggets, and Nikola Jokic I think is better than Rudy Gobert, and they just have more firepower. Paul Millsap is a good player. He's probably better than Joseph Ingles. Michael Porter Jr. He's going to be better than like Royce O'Neal or whoever you're throwing out at him. They're really, really, really missing Bogdanovich, so I'm going to take Nuggets in 5. In my opinion, I just really don't think that the Jazz can match up. Maybe I'll be wrong. I 2 years ago predicted the Thunder in 4 versus the Jazz. So anything can happen. And for my last Western Conference matchup, we got the Clippers and the Mavericks. First of all, I just want to say I hate the Clippers. And that's not going to really bias what I think about them. They're obviously, they're likely the best team in the league. Them, the Lakers and the Bucks, they're that three-man conversation that we've been having all season. I think this is the most one-sided Western matchup. I think this is really the only one that I can see ending in a sweep. I just don't think Luka and Kristaps Porzingis is going to be enough firepower to go toe-to-toe with the Clippers. I don't really need to list what the Clippers have. In my opinion, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell. The team is extremely deep. It's extremely talented. They've got Patrick Beverley on the wings as well. I just can't see the Mavericks really winning any games that Luka and KP don't go absolutely nuclear in. They just have a higher quality of role player. The superstars are both better. I think Luka's better than Paul George, but I think Kawhi is clearly better than Luka, and Paul George is clearly better than Kristaps. So we'll have to kind of see how all of this shakes out. Kawhi Leonard's, he's arguing for the best player in the world right now. This is where he's going to have to defend that title. That crown is resting on his head right now. We'll have to see if he can keep it on there. Like I said, it's going to be over in 4 or 5. I don't really think Kawhi Leonard's going to be letting Luka Doncic drop 40 on him. That just doesn't really seem like a Kawhi Leonard thing to do. So there's only one Eastern Conference matchup that I particularly want to talk about. The Heat and the Pacers. You got TJ scoring versus my main man James Butler. That's going to be kind of the head-to-head matchup. I know Victor Oladipo is technically the best player on the Pacers, but I think we can all agree that TJ Warren has been amazing. 3J scoring. It's going to be a really nice matchup to watch. Really, really great coaching staffs on both teams. Really, really great. Just everything. Really, really great. Organizationally, really, really great. Coaching staff, GM. They draft really well. Speaking of drafts and potentially Vlade Divac, we'll just bring him up here. I think I'm gonna need to talk about why Vlade is no longer the Kings general manager. So look out for maybe a video about that. But expect in the Heat Pacers series a really, really grindy matchup. Nate McMillan and Eric Spoelstra are both really defensive-minded coaches, and they're both going to be really slowing the series down. So I expect this to go the distance. I expect 7 games. I expect grindy, brutal, and I expect a game winner to cap one of at least 2 or 3 of the games off. It's going to be a close one. I'm really, really excited to see this one. But this is unfortunately the only matchup in the East that is worth watching, in my opinion. You can go ahead and call it Bucks in 4, Celtics in 5, Raps in 4. Just do a quick little touch on the Celtics one because I know I talked about Philly being extremely dangerous earlier. Never mind. They lost Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid to Zach Gimp. Trade them both. I don't even know. Trade one, trade the other. I have absolutely no idea what to do there. That's really sad for them. And the Bucks don't need any explanation, and the defending champs do not need any explanation versus the Nets. The Nets might take one because they're the scumbag Nets, and that's just what they do. Anyway, that's kind of all I have to say about the first round this season. I probably will get on, or depending on how I can kind of gather the information, I may or may not make another video this week based on the Vlade Divac situation and all of that. I have some things that I want to say about that, but that might end up being like a 5-minute video. We shall see. But either way, I will see you gentlemen next time. I've been Jackson Esther, and this has been Vindication Sports.